Roll intro. Why do these things just not work when they're supposed to? Welcome to the Magma Classroom. This particular classroom series focuses on the basics of digital painting, starting with the fundamentals of value, shapes, light, and color. We've done a good few apples and spheres already in previous lessons, tried our hands at some more interesting still life studies, broken down simple landscapes, and even run a gauntlet of timed exercises to speed up the learning process. This weekly hangout is intended for the determined beginner, and we'll take our time to explore each subject and learn together. I'm your host Ryan, the resident painter and caffeinated Wookiee at Magma, and while I grab a tea refill here, you can find all the instructions for joining me on the canvas in the description below. Ready your drawing tablet, we'll be getting started shortly. No, not the clubhouse. That was last night. Welcome to the classroom. I'm Ryan, of course. And yeah, we're going to be doing another chilled session today. We're going to be doing landscapes. I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if my audio is all right. I've kind of dampened the sound a little bit just to kill off some of the ambient humming and stuff that's going on in the room here. So first things first, before we get stuck into anything, we got to have some music. So while I do that, last week we looked at, painting rocks, foundational element of landscapes, right? Before that, we did a very basic landscape study, looking at how all those things work. Here we go. Here's the track I'm looking for. And today I thought we could have a bit of a more chilled out, spend a bit of time with a landscape a bit longer than we had before. We'll do some quick studies of these, we'll break them down a little bit, and then we'll go into a bit of a longer session. I have set up a sequence panel with some separate canvases, so you're welcome to grab one of those for yourself. And I would recommend doing, before you jump in, we'll talk first before we jump into drawing. You're welcome to do some short studies if you want. And I'll take over this canvas here. So, we've looked at all the basic stuff already through our previous sessions, right? We've been talking about value, we've been talking about color, shapes, incredibly important, values, absolute most important. And as much as I'm not much of a landscape painter myself, I don't have a lot of experience with this, I do feel like the foundations that we've covered are more than enough for you to start tackling subject matter like this. Most of it is just coming down to shapes. And then you can start to add your own sort of story into it. As you build your visual library, you'll be able to then incorporate things into this. And you can go into this in very varied levels of depth. Okay? You can focus just on shapes, getting really, really nice shapes, capturing the environment sort of as it is, capture a lighting scenario, getting the values right so that things look like there's solid depth, because you can use your values to illustrate depth. excuse me. And and as you start to do more and more of these studies, and you start to build your understanding of these different sort of shapes, what things look like in a realistic environment, how the lighting works and such, you can then start combining those different elements together. So yeah, we're going to spend some time with the study today, and I think this is something we should be doing more frequently. I think we'll be doing quite a few of these more chilled out sessions where we really take time with one of our subjects. And I had a hard time trying to decide which landscapes to bring in here to talk about and for us to potentially use. I'll bring it over. I went nuts on my Purif board, just finding all sorts of amazing landscapes, and there's something interesting about each and every one of these. Again, it's not subject matter I normally gravitate towards to paint, but as I've been going through all this, I'm finding all these really neat little things. I just want to paint it all because it's so interesting, the way light reflects, or the different color palettes, various shapes that could suddenly turn into, a castle on the hill, or where you can start bringing in characters and could tell such interesting stories. There's all these worlds you can start to create in these spaces. So, on the note of shapes, I came across an artist, Alex Shin. I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly there. But if you look at these, look at the shapes in this. Very simple shapes, right? Yeah. But obviously his understanding of his understanding of lighting and lighting on these different shapes is what makes these images so striking. Quite simple, but awesome colors, really bold stuff, very clear, strong shapes. And I was just blown away by this. Obviously, over time you learn a bit more about composition and what really adds to making a landscape look interesting. And it's not just like, straight pick up your phone, take a photo, quite like that. There's really thinking about how the landscape fits within the frame and how you compose it. I mean, if we look at this here, fairly symmetrical composition, with these three pillars, but it gets broken up in quite simple ways. One pillar is taller than the other one on the other side. And as much as it's quite a dark and ominous scene, you've got this light behind it to bring forward those forms and make them stand out much better. So we have it up over here, but it's not perfectly centered. It's just off to the side. And then down below, over here, I think you can see my cursor. Yeah. Over here, again, not a huge amount of light coming through at the back, but definitely some light breaking through the clouds, enough to define the form of those pillars more, so it doesn't get lost in the dark clouds. Some really, really nice compositions here. And yeah, some of the stuff we'll be looking at, but awesome colors mixed in. It's not just, it's a very warm scene, of course, and you have this warm colored rock, more orange, but with this lighter, like bright yellow type of light on it, and you got in the shadow, you got these purples and blues mixed in with that orange, sort of obviously leaning a little bit more to the grays in some part. Just such good use of color. So yeah, and of course we can't talk about landscapes without showing a little something by Nathan Fowkes. And I don't even know if this was one of his. Actually, no, I thought it was, but it's not. It's someone else's signature. Whoops. Anyway, but look at this. This is very simple. It's a really awesome scene, right? So I'm just scrolling in and out because I like seeing this in different angles. But you've got a very simple brush used. Textured brush makes the difference for sure. But you've got these hard edges, a lot of like kind of squarish type of brushwork, long sort of stuff, and a mix of interesting colors in the water. It's not just a single color that's reflecting all kinds of stuff around the environment, but you've got a clearly defined rock sitting within that water, creating some shadow, nice sort of depth, change in values. It's quite bright there, it draws your eye to the light hitting it at the back. So yeah, just all these foundational elements, we start to combine them together with a whole lot of studies of different landscapes, you're going to be well equipped for making some awesome scenes. So let's get into one of these things. I'm going to start with this top one over here. Now, like with our previous lessons and studies that we've done, I like to just first break things down, just to see what's there. Oh, I'm getting quite a bit of lag on my pen here. Why is that happening? Blah. It's only with the drawing tablet. Okay, let me change drawing tablets here. It's interesting. I did a test stream earlier today on my personal channel. Everything worked fine. No hiccups there. Of course, when it comes time to the classroom, we run into some things. Okay, let's bring this closer. And I have a pen somewhere. There we go. Okay. Hello. Sorry guys, give me a moment. Anyone who's been a part of my streams over the last couple of months will know that there's always a technical issue with me. There's always something. My tablet's not working, that's why. Let's see, hopefully this fixes it. Oh, why are you doing this to me? Now my driver won't start. Next I gotta be drawing with the mouse. Which I don't recommend. I don't recommend that at all. But that said, Craig Mullins is no stranger to painting with mouse. Okay, but he's the master. He was painting with the mouse before drawing tablets were a thing, and making awesome work. Still makes awesome work. Okay, tablet driver, are you going to work with me, or do I have to switch back? Balls. And this? Oh, lordy lord. Okay, well, while you wait for me to figure out my thing, you can take a look at this top image and try and break it down. Break down the shapes that are there. Have a look at where the light source is. It is quite a... There's a lot of cloud in there, right? So there's going to be a lot of reflected light, but there is still a clear direction of light. There's definitely a change of value from the foreground to the background. Well, it's quite strong in the mid. And the colors are interesting. Colors of the rocks at the back vary quite a bit from what's going in the front, which is a bit bluer. See? And as much as there's definitely, we look at that grass, it's green grass, but there's more to it than that. There's a bit of blue in there. There's a bit of orange in there as well. A kind of light creamy yellow in parts. Yeah, so we've got quite a lot to play with here. Okay, my driver does not want to work this game. We're gonna have a little screen flashing for a second while I figure this out. What does this connect to? Let's see. Aha! Aha! We have made progress on our issue here. There we go. She works! Fantastic. Now let's get to it. Enough time wasted. So I'm going to break it down here quickly. Wow. Wow. Got a new layer ready. So, very simple breakdown. We've got this. Obviously, it's not a perfectly straight line. I'm just breaking things down, keeping it simple. But there's a direction that this foreground grassy patch is going. Same with this bit of mountain here. And then this is all kind of like one connected section that's moving off into the background. We can kind of break it down a bit like this, because there's that sharp light hitting there that defines it a little bit from what's behind. And then we have this kind of fish fin shape thing going over here. Let's just break it down into a simple triangle. Okay. And there's a very subtle bit of mountain in the background. It's a little darker in there, so we'll take note of that for later. This comes down over to a peak, a little nearer towards us. We've got all of our shadow in here. So just a very simple breakdown of what's happening. Actually, I was looking at this really small earlier. I was zoomed out quite a bit, and I realized how off I was on some directions and what was going on. It's a little sample of this. Okay, and then with this, we definitely notice a lot of flow or lines that move along with the mountain in that direction. So a bit of dip over here. Things are darker here. Lighter on this side. Definitely got light coming from this direction, because one, that is much lighter than the face adjacent to it. Okay. So let's erase that. Look at our values. I'm going to shift to grayscale. And we can see that the contrast is quite strong here in the front, in the foreground. As we move back, the contrast decreases. A typical thing that happens out in landscapes during daylight. You've got all this interaction of light with all the molecules and other parts of the environment. Light's bouncing around, so it diffuses the light a little bit more, gets into the shadows a little bit, brings the light and dark much closer together, so we have a lower contrast. When things are much closer to you, like everything's much clearer. There's less of that atmosphere in between for light to bounce around, so stronger contrast. Okay, nice. Now it would be tempting to do a 10-stroke challenge of this like we did in our timed exercise, but I won't do that to you. I like to start off zoomed out. As much as I said now that there were some issues, now when I zoom right in, I can see, oh, okay, wait, that's actually what's going on. That's how the snow is forming and falling into this valley. We start off zoomed out so that we focus on broad shapes, broad lighting, and then we gradually zoom into all the details. So what are we going to say? I want to have a bit of a background here. Let's go with the dark blue. Oh, if anyone's watching, you're wanting to join me or join us on a canvas here, you can find all the information's in the video description, the stream description. You'll have to join the Classroom Artspace first, and then follow the link to join the canvas, and then find one of these canvases here. If you're already in the Artspace, it's lesson 9 under my name. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go with the broad blue thing. I'm sticking with the pixel pencil tool here, which interesting enough, this is going to be 150. We don't need fancy tools for the beginning. Just want to fill in a space that the composition will fit into. It doesn't have to be completely filled in, it doesn't have to be neat on the edges. That's something we can deal with later. Now, it's always good to do a little sketch. I think when there's a bit more going on in the landscape. Oh, sorry, my bad. Let me add permissions here. Add remove layers, take over layers, layers. Cool. Same over here. This always gets me. I tend to lock everything before the stream. We set up everything beforehand, and then okay, just make sure Radix got permissions here. Oh, but he's There we go. It should be sorted now. Do this on all the others too. Always gets me. So yeah, I just start with a base color. As it is, I've made the canvas gray because that's just music's a bit too loud. Thank you. Always appreciate the feedback there because sometimes I don't hear it. It can be soft in my headphones, and next thing it's really loud on the stream. Okay, so let's get to it. I'm just making a rough thing here because it's easier to establish light and dark when you've got a rough thing. Now on a new layer, I'm going to create my line work. Not my line work, a rough sketch, just for placement, just for the sake of placement. So I'm looking. I'm going to try to keep a certain degree of accuracy, keep kind of close to the reference material. So I'm going to look at where this line is, what sort of direction it's going. Something sort of here, maybe. And it goes up a little bit. So just to get a general thing. This is about placement. It's not about accurately getting all the edges perfect or anything like that. It sort of lands in the middle, right? I'm looking at all these points. Like, what does it intersect with? Yeah, there's a little mound over here. It sort of intersects there. Got a little mound over there. And now, originally we broke this down into a shape like that. It's all part of one thing, but it does give a little bit of definition. So I'm going to bring that up like so. Quite right. That's fine. And things sort of merge into the clouds. This shape changes. I probably should have made this a little bit longer. Does that. Comes in. Then we've got this valley here. I'll add a little bit more into the canvas in a moment. Then here as well. This is much further back. Also comparing points, sort of triangular thing. And we've got that fish fin shape. So I'm just roughly getting it, and then at the back I know there's a bit more mountain over there. Now I can just broadly start with color. Again, I'm going to use it, just keep things on a separate layer. And I'm going to pick a color that closely represents the overall color that's here. So it's kind of like a blue-green, dark blue-green, maybe even a bit more towards the warm side. That's on the left. So I'm going to look around here. Get a little bit more green than that. It's quite dark. And I don't want to go with something too saturated early on. Let's make this full size. So now we sketched those shapes out. Now it's broadly filling in those shapes. Again, it's just placement. That should be more blue. These are all quite dark, so the value is on the lower end. This could be more blue, I think. It's like getting something down that you can refer to and make decisions based on that. Because otherwise, if you're sitting with blank canvas, you're trying to get everything perfect right away, it's difficult. You want to have lots of points of reference to fix things up. And then we can lighten up some areas. The light that's coming in is a bit on the warm side. If we go all the way in, oh yeah, we can see that rock has got some warmth here. There's a orangey yellow color that's going on there, and same with this grass. So we're gonna go with that combination of things. Whoops. Shadows will be cooler, and the areas receiving light are going to trend towards warmer tones. And let's get some clouds going on in here. Let's move a bit over the top. That's okay. Push it back a little bit. Oops. Essentially, this whole area is quite a bit lighter. I've also got a little bit that comes in here. Cool. Now I mentioned that light, that sort of warm orangey green, orangey yellow green. Could go quite bold with this. There's a bit of that going into it. Let's extend this a little. And you are, of course, welcome to ask questions at any point as we're working on this. It's just meant to be a more chilled out thing, so I'll be talking and explaining as I go along with things. But it's not going to be a sort of like structured lesson. I do, however, want to, let's see, maybe spend about half an hour or so on this one, and then we can try out one of the others. The aim is not to get a perfect landscape. Just get some good shapes, clear lighting, clear values, all those good things. But I'm always looking now what's happening with the different values that are here. How do things relate in terms of light and dark with the things that are adjacent to the other? This is also meant to be like really light, but it gets darker up here. So I'm going to go with that rock. Good. It's too much. It's quite blended in. And if you want to just see what range a color is in, you can just go with your color picker and just move over the reference, and you can kind of see, oh, okay, well that's quite gray over there. It's a kind of blue gray or an orangey gray. You can test all those things out. I wouldn't recommend color picking that just straight from your reference, but try and see what range of color is around it, and then try and grab it out of your. Why is that music stopped? So it doesn't move from one track to the next on its own. It either loops the same track or it doesn't move on to the next one. Interesting. Yeah, this will be lighter. I'll get to that. If you want to speed things up, now I've chosen the slow route to get things established. You could, of course, have done this with the lasso fill, right, and get really nice hard edges right off the bat. And with some of these changes in values, it's quite subtle. We can compare this. This should be much bluer. Rather than this kind of violet-y color. If we again look into our reference, go a little closer, zoom in. There we go. Okay, some of those highlights get quite light. Interesting. Okay, but that is of course snow on top of a dark mountain, so it would be. But more I'm thinking about is the sort of mounds of the ground itself. Where here it's very subtle shifting that happens. And then of course once you get to the snow it's much lighter. All these little things kind of like look out for. This should be, I'm going to try and be a little bolder here with brightness and colors. So I have a tendency to build up a little too slow. And each track is only 2 minutes long. And this light section here above the dark mountain really helps to bring it out. You've got to soften that. So you're going to be playing around with your settings a lot. You're going to be using very simple brushes. You're going to be playing with those settings all the time. Adjusting the opacity, adjusting the density, adjusting your size. But it's good to also just have those at max for a little bit until you get your shapes clearly defined and in there. This should be more yellow, gray. And at some point, you're going to want to turn off your line layer. But with some of these shapes, right? And just thinking for those who are maybe a bit more beginner level, something like layer here. This is just a box, right? Slightly elevated box, but above the horizon line. And when we did our basic shading of boxes, here you just, because our light's coming from the left, it's a simple change in value. This should actually be darker. But I want to shift it a bit more towards brown. Hey, I see Starry Night Sky and Vita over there in the comments. Sorry, I'm catching it at a little late. All my technical issues threw me off there. We can bump this up, make it a bit bigger. Desaturate a bit more. So just thinking about that simple box that we've already done. You can have combined things here, so I'm just going to paint over that. I'm going to hide my line layer now, because I kind of know what's going on. And I'm bouncing around the canvas all over the place. I don't have permission to add layers. Oh, sorry, Faye. Let me get back there. I thought I had done that to all the things yet. There we go. Make sure this one as well. Yep. Add an extra layer, extra canvas in case we have some more people joining. There we go. Cool. Back to it then. Try and draw a hidden layer. Yes. You're welcome. Yeah, that could also be a bit brighter. Don't be afraid to be bold. Even if I know drawing this strong line here to indicate that bit of rock in the background that's doing something, that's way too strong, of course. But you can put it down and then you can push it back with the mistiness. And it'll just sort of like peek through. Okay, I need to find a track that is longer than 120 seconds. And we need to go a bit darker here. But generally if you have a cooler, come on, play now. A cooler shadow, it's gonna desaturate a little bit. Generally, not always. Bit of a bump there. I'm just trying to see things as shapes. Like, what is part of the mountain doing? Okay, that's a shape of X color. A color that is lighter or darker, bluer or cooler or warmer. Yeah, shadows typically gain in saturation, but when things cool down, they get desaturated. So sometimes when you're playing within your box here, it tends to just be like maybe a straight shift down. All depends. This is where our observational skills come in. Get rid of these lines. Try and make a habit of checking your values as well. By going to your view menu, showing grayscale, you can kind of see how intense the contrast is. If it is, you might even want to work like that for a little bit. And when you color pick, while you've got your view in grayscale mode, when you color pick, it's color picking still the color that's under there. So when you're grabbing your shadow, you'll be dropping down more of that shadow color. Go a bit darker here. bit extreme what I did there, but that's okay. Just want to define this grassy bit that's here. This should be... I'll keep going on about this, but always checking what's adjacent. So here I'm trying to put down a bit of a darker area, but when I initially put it down, it was blending in with what is behind it. So either the value of what I've got in front isn't dark enough, if that edge is meant to stand out, and either I haven't made the foreground dark enough, or I haven't made what's behind it light enough in value. So always doing those comparisons. The whole painting process is back and forth. There'll be less back and forth as you get more experienced, for sure. Oops, I'm probably using the wrong color there. That's maybe a bit too strong. This is why they say you need to step back often as well. When you put down a stroke, sometimes if you're quite zoomed in for a long time, you don't realize how that stroke looks relative to everything else. And it could be you've put down a color that's too strong, or too bright, or too dark, relative to what else is already there. And you keep just building things up in relation to everything else. Slowly, slowly. So you've got to step back often, zoom out often. Switch to grayscale often so you can check your values. Where does this go? This kind of goes, yeah, a bit further away from purple. Don't bit much there. Let's adjust that. Subtle changes in light. This obviously needs to be lighter too. So like I was saying earlier, with, you do studies like this, and suddenly it leads to other things. When I look at this, look at how sheer that change in the rock shape is. It's got this angled thing, and it looks like it comes up quite strong, like into this cube-like form. Could that be a castle? Well, that's up to you. If you've got enough castle reference in your memory bank there, or you pick up some good reference online, then you could turn it into something like that. Also shift a little bit towards blue. How are we doing for time? 7:44. here I could definitely go brighter on this grass. I want to, again, try and be a little bit bolder with the color. So let's go. Potentially a bit over the top, but let's see what happens. Be a bit more green than that. And we've got quite a bit of orange that's in the landscape here too. Just gonna drop in big chunks of it, just so that it's there, and then I'll push it back. It's very strong. If you're going for a more graphical style, then you probably make your edges much sharper than what I've been doing. It's grassy. Don't get stuck in the details too early. Yeah, I could probably zoom in a little bit here. We can push back some of this grass. The browniness of it. Okay, looking pretty messy here. Let's sharpen that up. And at some point you're probably going to want to think about where's the focus of the piece? Where do you want people to be looking? Because if you spend all this time detailing the grass and that's not really where you want people to look, yeah, you're gonna be busy wasting your time. So generally you want to set that up much earlier, so that you know, okay, cool, I want people to look here, which means there's going to be good contrast, maybe more detail. I mean, I haven't decided that for myself yet. I want people to look at this rock at the back, in which case, I could leave the brushwork in the middle, or that I have here in the foreground rather, really loose and a bit chaotic and all over the place, and it'd be totally fine. Now I should probably start spending some time detailing in this area. That does seem to be where their attention is, right? We've got this quite a bit of contrast there, lines that lead into that direction. And then because of that, I might want to just soften a little bit of the contrast that's going on here, because it's quite strong. Sure thing, Starry Night. Your canvas will be there for you to join in and enjoy whenever it suits you. Okay, let's define some of these shapes a bit. Thing. It's so funny doing these exercises, I find, because I tend to do a bit of a practice run earlier in the day or the day before, just get a feel, make sure I'm going to cover everything that needs to be covered for the lesson. And that painting always comes out so much better than when it comes time to actually do the class. Y'all give me stage fright. Let's go yellow with that. New track, new track. What's going on here? Too brown there. Everyone else doing? Whoa! Nice work, Radek. You look so good. Very good. That color's way more accurate than what I've got going here. I'm trying to draw on a hidden layer. Actually, let's delete that sketch layer. Okay, how's our time? I think maybe we spend another 5 minutes on this one, and then we can shift to try another. Obviously, don't delete your layer. You can come back to it after the class, just to try out some different shapes. Perhaps this one. A little bit of that in here. Okay. So I think let's move on to another one here. A bit all over the place. I know I definitely need to spend quite a bit more time to get mine looking anything close to where I'd like it to be. Let's hide this. Okay. I'm going to do a new layer. Let's just call this one. So I'm going to be doing this one next. Nice and warm. Interesting rock formation there. And I'm going to start off in the same way by just dropping in a bit of a basic color palette. What do you call it? An underpainting, I guess. I'm going to choose what I can sort of burn sienna. It doesn't really matter because you are going to paint on top of this anyway. It generally matters a bit more, or it works to your benefit rather, when you're using a texture brush where there's little bits coming through of what's underneath, which we're not really doing with this. Brushes tend to be white filled and opaque for now. If you do have access to the other brushes, you're welcome to use it. I just like to keep things simple, yeah. Then we'll do a sketch. Do a new layer. Make my brush nice and small. And the same thing, breaking down what's going on. If we zoom in a little bit and take a little look. Let's see, because I am going to be zoomed out, so I kind of want to register some of this information. Let's find a color where we can look at things. Okay, so obviously we've got, I don't know if these two things are kind of, no, they're separate. We've got that. We've got this bit of mountain, the other edge of this little valley here. We've got this as one thing, slight change there. And then we've got a very low contrast mountain range on the background. And of course, our shape. Let's see, yeah. Bring it down like that. Then it comes from underneath. Little bits here. Don't have to really spend much time there. We've got this sort of joint in here. This rock sort of comes into that and does the same thing here. And we've got, if I hide this, you can see there's also these nice changes, like these patterns running along the rock where it's a bit lighter. So maybe we can accentuate that a little bit. We've got very warm light landing on here, so we'll keep that in mind. Shadows are fairly cool again. I compare here, light, very warm, saturated, orange. And when we shift towards the shadows here, just underneath the archway, desaturated, much cooler. Okay, so we'll work with that combination of things. I just want to take a quick 5-minute break. 5 minutes. I just top up my water glass, and I will be right back. Actually, what I want to do with this one maybe is try and push the shapes a little bit too. How exactly would we do that? Okay, so long screen side. I'm gonna zoom in and take another look here. What sort of shapes do we have here that we can maybe exaggerate a little? The arch is, that's where the attention is. That's where we will spend most of our, that's where we could really push things. So even if it's just about making certain edges harder or angling them out a little more than we have on the photo. So even if it's pushing this, let's make it bigger. Come on, go bigger. Pushing this out a bit. Try not to have that too straight. To make these steps way more clearly sort of defined, exaggerate a bit of a sharp. Another change of plane over here, perhaps we can give a bit more definition to that. And maybe go with a more squarish sort of look instead of this very rounded thing. Can bring it over a bit more. We'll see. We'll kind of take it as it comes. I need to sneeze. Yeah. It's a very strong line in here. We could even stick with just that sort of strength. We might go in a little bit with some things, but I mean, if we simplify it, this is kind of what it's doing. It would be much straighter if we follow the same logic. Push that out a bit, I think, when I go in. So I'm just thinking about how I want to change things up. This maybe comes in. Yeah, we could play with that. So I'm not going to try and stick to the exact form. Try and go for something a little more graphical. I'm going to try. But I tend to go for more like painterly and just build up lots of strokes. But we'll try and fiddle around here with the lasso full, I think. So first thing, I want to get a general idea, just sketch things out in here. Let's hide this layer. Still need to see it. Thank you. So we've got it on this mound that sort of dips down like this. Maybe even come a bit higher. Very sketchy. We have this bit in the background too. It's got these pillars on it. Let's not worry about that right now. But it comes up and it also juts down. We've got quite a horizontal. This bit of landscape at the back, the foreground. That's that, and then we've got our sort of soft mountains in the back. Now let's do our main shape here. So I'm going to say that that's the top. Strong edge there. And what we say, we brought this out a bit more before it came in. Where does it do that roughly? Sort of at the top of this, so we can come into about there. Trying to avoid also anything that's I won't say too straight. Anything that's kind of perpendicular. I want to avoid anything that's 90 degrees with or parallel with perpendicular or parallel to the edges of the canvas. So I don't want to go with perfect horizontal lines necessarily. Okay, this That it does kind of make sense because we're shooting towards the horizon there. But with the main forms, I want to avoid anything that's straight up or down, straight across. Just because those kinds of lines can be a bit more boring. It's got these feet. So it's almost like it comes from a similar sort of shape at the back and then out like that. Down. Overall, we got this doing a similar thing. Okay, so thinking about planes as well. I'm using now the reference photo as reference. I'm breaking away from it, rather than trying to do exactly what's there. We'll just use this. We'll use it purely as a reference, not as the sort of source images we're trying to replicate. It sort of comes down as a plane over here. Say it does. And then this thing does the same. Okay, let's change the tunes here. Oh gosh. Two separate parts on the side here before they come to a round it a bit more. So if I'm just thinking about wireframe here, let's see, it still follows this sort of direction, and then it wraps around. So just for my own sort of mental notes there. Okay, I think that's sufficient to work with. This could actually come in up there. What am I doing here actually? We'll figure this out once we go. We'll get into sculpting it. Alright, on a new layer. Now I want to keep things a bit more hard edge. Now instead of going with a paintbrush, I'm going to go with my lasso fill. But first, let's see. Let's do things at the back a bit first. So we've got this. Okay, we've got a sky. I'm going to simplify the sky, go with something sort of here. That's maybe even too bright, I think. Shift down a bit. Well, that song ended quickly. And then we've got some cooler, like contrasty things here. Let's shift a little bit towards purple. I'm kind of working from the back forward. There. A bit more contrast. So this one's this one starts to get tricky color-wise. What's going on here? It's got the reds, but it's more purplish. So I was here. Let's shift more towards purple, saturate a little bit so it warms up. And it's okay if we exaggerate. I'll actually just bring the whole way down. And this definitely shifts more to the warm side. Still quite desaturated though. It's light, slightly. At least on the top. Doesn't quite work. It's okay. It's not the main part. And then I'm just going to fill it in get the silhouette in here. I'm not worried about perfect color. So I'm following the lines that I've drawn. This is going to be much easier to do if you're on a screen tablet. If you're on something like an Intuos, it might be a little more challenging depending on how comfortable you are with the tool. I'm going to bump that out a bit more, like so. And this one. Okay, so let's think a bit about color. I probably am going to switch to the paintbrush because that's where I'm more comfortable. But let's try and get some planes in here. Drop the sketch layer a bit. So I want to go to the right layer. What did we say? We're going cooler with our shadows. So we're desaturating down a little bit and simplify. We will group things first. I don't quite like that. Let's saturate a little bit more. Shift over. Quite the exaggeration. And under here too, let's lighten it up slightly though. I want that whole thing to be shadow. And here I remember being quite a bit more desaturated. We can see that here. Maybe even bring this. It's a little tricky to get the shape of this in here. And we can go light by I'm gonna go up, shifting a bit to the warms, so it's staying still quite saturated. It's not like that light is blinding light. Let's see what happens when we do this. I'll probably have to come back and turn that down. Abso-freaking-lutely. Shift a bit this way. This follows here. Okay. This overall is quite light too. That sky should be lighter. High in value rather. But now I've got a problem. This is where I'll shift now to the brush. But I've got the shapes in. I could even, if I kept everything on a separate layer, which I should have done, I could lock the opacity and stay just within that shape. But now I can work with this. I can work with this. First make the brush bigger. This was an experiment. Not the most successful one. Not the most successful one. This needs to be desaturated for sure. Shift over. Find the darks. Do we have that light piece over here? Can go a little more yellow on the edge. This has been a bit of a blunder. Now I'll just start looking at values and see what's not quite working. Some time, by the way. 8:22. Lots of time to fix my mistakes. Soften all this out. So the lasso really helps to get things down really quickly, and then you can get to the messy phase much quicker, get through it, find what needs to be resolved. This color's not quite right. It needs to be a bit more pinky, like that, yes. We'll get to that piece there later. Hey Janu, I see you joining the canvas there. There should be an available canvas off to the side, down on our sequence panel, down here. You're welcome to grab one that's available and pick a landscape. Pick a landscape. This could all be higher. There's a funny tangent there. I don't like that. Don't like that one bit. It should sit below, maybe down here. Zoom out. What do I see? Okay. like I've lost a bit of this sense of light here. Music change, please. It's going to get a bit muddy pretty quickly. This is why you do things on separate layers. It's hard to fix stuff up behind the rock. But what one could do is grab the lasso selection, draw around, okay, Control-Shift-I. I've inverted my selection. Now I can get behind it much easier. Spread this out a little bit more. Just to be oranger. Nope. Tad better, but now I've lost another edge that I want. From this over. Okay, that'll do for now. As a precautionary thing, I'm going to set up silhouette shape of my rock. Oops, on a separate layer. That was the plan. Just that I can use this as a selection later on if I need it. Whether or not that will work, I'm unsure. Oops. Sabotage myself. Oh, lordy loud, what have I done? There we go. That's one less. Two. There we go. Darker in here, more saturated, although not too saturated because it is to be cooler. And then shifting towards warm as we go along. Just little flecks of orange light on this ridge. Brush too small. And what else have we got? We've got some noodling around on unnecessary things. These little steps. That's too much. That's too much. So this part isn't working for me. But we've got these little steps over here, so I want to bring these in. Connects with this part here. Might have to extend the original here. Well, if this is showing me anything, I've got to spend a little more time with my landscapes. I'm working so tiny. That's not helping my case either. I've got the shapes down more or less to the point where I can be okay with it. Check if there's any comments here. No. How are you guys finding this? It's challenging? Pretty easy? It's a little challenging. It's almost like a tree root over here. Cool, Spling, I'm glad to hear this. Yeah, for sure. It's a little lighter here. Waiting for time. It's so interesting looking at my two different monitors and how different the coloring looks. Both still look a mess. I'll say that much. Let's go back to this. Ask me to check the time. Okay, we've got 20 minutes left. We can keep going with this, or we can switch to another one. You can let me know. I don't mind. Excuse me. This last one would probably be a little easier to a degree. Because this form and lighting is a little tricky. It's getting me. It's getting me. Not for the sake of streaming purposes. Or is it me admitting defeat? I'll shift to the other one and see what we can do in 20 minutes. This certainly wasn't successful for me, but I'm going to take another crack at it another day. So let's hide all this. Alrighty. So lighting is a little simpler on this, I guess you could say, simply because of the fact that it's overcast situation, lots of diffused light, so there's not going to be super strong contrast for most of the image. There's a little bit over here, a little bit across the side there, but where things are, where the local color and value of a thing is just a bit darker, those areas will be a bit darker. But yeah, so I'm going to go with it doesn't matter, I can go with the same sort of browny, orangey, green mud color. Make it nice and big. Yeah. Starting shapes here are also pretty simple. Okay. So we've got quite a light sky. like almost white. Okay, let's give it a little bit of blue. Kind of, it's maybe a bit much, but we're going to go over it anyway as we come forward. Okay, we've got more of an orange. Desaturate a little bit. Okay, yeah, that, but it's darker towards the bottom. Come up a bit more. This I would say shadows are more on the warm side. I think. It's going to get a nice variety of things in here. Then, okay, I want to go with the gray rock. Shift that maybe towards the blue side as well. Put that here. Yeah, this time I just went straight to blocking in shapes. I didn't worry about doing a sketch first. And we've got more rock here. Okay, we've got some darker rock too. Let's see this sort of mound rock here. So it comes up into a triangular bit. I'll have to fix that. That's not right. This should be here. Here we've got dark as well. Could be darker than that. Got bits where it's even darker inside of this. Just grouping shapes, grouping shapes. We've got this awesome yellow green, yellow orange green. It's kind of it's an interesting one. It's quite a strong color. There's a face here. No, that's not the right color. Let's go over. Somewhere with this. Go with the exaggerated thing first, and then we can push it. Okay, let's try to get some rocks in here. Lots of rocks. But I'm also I'm getting my eyes squint the whole time, just seeing what sort of space they occupy. So follow this. Here we have one that's slightly bigger. One over here, it's darker, but I'll sort that out now. Obviously made some things way too big. Yeah, this can shift. This is probably more gray. Yeah, the challenging part is definitely having the reference so tiny for me. This is also on a 12-inch display. And then having this tiny reference next to it, it's the size, takes up that, like, that's the height of it. So it's super tiny. Oops. And we'll have, let's do some shadow in the rock. So there is a very strong shadow here. And all this grass that comes up underneath it. So much. Oh, 10 minutes, okay. No, got a lot to do in such a tiny amount of time. Were it not for the fact that my tummy be a rumbling, I would probably stick around and paint a bit longer. But you guys are obviously welcome to keep painting. Yeah, I use PureF to do the same thing. Normally, but because I'm showing the whole screen and I've got the reference here on the side, I just figured I'd leave it. PureF, yeah, that's right, that's the correct spelling. It's also like infinite canvas, so I'll bring it over quickly. I've got it open on the side here. This board is so chaotic. Let's move it over. So I've got it on screen now, and yeah, you can zoom out all the way. This is full on infinite canvas. You can just drag and drop things straight from Pinterest or Google or wherever. And it's pretty neat. You can also shift into grayscale if you want to for checking values. It's got a hotkey and all that, and you can set it to always on top or to hide when you click away. And you can select one of the images, push spacebar, and it shifts it to full size. I mean, look at these mountains. Good lord. So nice. To paint another time. Cool, no problem. I think it's a sort of donate what you can, or a it's a small kind of donation thing. I wouldn't mind if they brought in the ability to kind of write a couple of notes around items that you drop on the canvas. It could be pretty neat. Let's get some light in here. So this is quite a strong line. Let's keep that strong. Here, value starts to change a little bit, gets a bit more blue. This way. Drop the value a bit more. Don't be shy, don't be shy. And we can blend it over. Here as well. But some of these clumps of, looks like it's brown in here. Yeah, there's clumps of ground in there. So we can go with a bit of a desaturated dabbing. And here, let me zoom out because it's, and then do the same thing, a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. There are some distinct shapes here. I mustn't lose that. It sort of does that shape all the way. And the side is a bit more textured. It's really just a case of rendering from this point. Once you got the shapes in, it takes much longer when you don't have, when you're using very basic brushes, I would say. It does help. I know I go on about people get too caught up in brushes, but some things, it really does help. Depending on the look you're going for. I mean, if you want that textural look. Again, if you're going graphical, more graphic hard edge shapes, it's different. You can stylize things in fun ways. Let's make this rock bigger. Make the rock bigger. we can't really see it unless we zoom all the way in. Is it this little house down there? Tiny little house, little cabin of some sort. That's where I want to be. Let's accentuate that a little bit. $8.58 on my side. I do want to just keep going just a little longer. Actually, I haven't checked how Roddick's piece is going here. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what everybody's doing. Oh, just the thumbnail size of it looks good. The color. Load in. There you go. Yeah. Nice warm grass. Nice warm grass. Ah, finally. I wasn't able to see the thumbnail for some reason. What you're doing down here. Cool, yeah, getting all the little bits in there. Bit of that grass that's growing on top of the rock. Who's off to the side here? Whose was this? Ah, that was Faya. Awesome. Really nice. Written that little bits of them start to show through. So it's nice that you've got that sort of light, very light, bright turquoise. Not bright, let's say high value, sort of desaturated. Good, looking good. Sure that edge is nice and sharp. Okay, there's somewhere a bit overboard here with the height. Let's drop that in. Gonna need to have a good stretch after this to all the working. Okay, I think we're going to call it there. My eyes need need a rest. I feel like I'm not really making any progress. Having looked at the screen for a while, I need to work with bigger reference. I do want to just keep painting, but this color's even got a bit of, yeah, it should have made it not quite right. Needs a bit of this in it. Yeah, actually that makes a big difference, bringing in a bit of blues to complement the warm orange ground. Such a subtle thing, and it makes such a difference. Okay, I'm going to call it there for the stream. I hope you found that as challenging as I did. We'll see what we do next week. We could even spend a little bit more time with landscapes. If people are into it, maybe shift down a little bit, do another, oh, not shift down, shift back to another still life study. Thanks, Bling. Great to have you here. Thanks, Radek, as well, for joining. Faya, I don't think you're still here. Starry Night Sky, I know you're not here at the moment, but if you do happen to listen again through to the end of the stream, thanks for joining me, and we will see you again next week for the clubhouse and the classroom. Cheers, guys.